I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, July 12th, 2021 to order. We will be going into executive session and returning to open session no later than 6 p.m. Mary, can I get a motion to go into executive
I
session?
move that we go into executive session to discuss three items. First, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 3, to discuss with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions if an open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position and the chair so declares. The second item, executive session pursuant to general laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, water, wastewater superintendent. And third, executive session pursuant to general laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2 and 3, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with union personnel, SEIU.
Second.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session. Roll call vote. Larry?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Topic related.
Pending our votes.
What's that?
Pending our votes.
Yeah, we should probably wait till after the votes, huh?
We've had
Good evening.
Yeah.
I'm going to reopen the Board of Selectmen's meeting for July 12th, 2021. We started tonight's meeting in executive session, and we adjourned executive session, but we will reopen executive session as one of the matters that we were discussing related to contract negotiations was not finished. The other two items that we took up were exactly that, collective bargaining and contract negotiations. Neither one of them there was any votes taken or decisions made. With that, I'd ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anyone for weekly briefing? Public comments and announcements? Okay, so we'll move on to the presentation from Mark Kelleher, Kelper Farms, regarding sugar kelp production and bay scallops.
Good evening. My name is Mark Kelleher. I'm a partner with Kelper Farms. My partner, Paul Wittenstein, is, he may still show up. He had a little issue with childcare. But tonight, I'm in front of the board to talk to you about expanding our permit that is existing for kelp to bay scallops. It is a year-round, it would be a year-round proposition. We are located, and this is a little bit different from your packet, and I'll explain later when we get to the maps. We're located at 0.8 of a mile off Pleasant Street. We have been there for the last 3 years with an existing kelp, 1 or 2 lines. We have existing permits with the Division of Marine Fisheries and the Army Corps of Engineers. They have indicated to us that they will modify our permits based upon approval by the Selectmen. I hope you will consider tonight having a vote, if not at the earliest possible time after tonight, because obviously you're dealing with a government agency. Permitting takes, even though it's a modification, will take time, plus the Division of Marine Fisheries needs to do a survey of the area where they have to dive out in the area to see if there's any existing shellfish beds. If you could go to the, and I'm going to use this here. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of written things. Okay. Here is what our equipment looks like right here. Out on the surface of the water, we have anchors at either end. Sorry if this is moving a lot. We have end buoys, and this is approximately 250 feet. We have intervening flotation buoys. This is what the buoys look like. Okay. Just for comparison purposes, This is one of my lobster buoys when I had a residential permit. In terms of a surface effect, it's very similar to if we had 10 lobster pots out there, and there is approximately 10 buoys out there. Any of us here in this room could get a residential lobster permit and put 10 buoys in that area. Could you go to the next slide, please? This is what we look subsurface. Excuse me. Okay, here's the surface of the water right here. Here are our flotation buoys. They're located approximately 50 feet apart. This is our end buoy. This is our end buoy here, flotation buoys. This is our long line, which is 8 feet below the surface of the water. In fact, it's more like 10 feet because of the slack in the line and the weight of the lantern bags. It's actually 10 feet. There's no boat in the area that we're working that has that type of draft. Here's an example. These are the lantern bags we use. They are filled up with bay scallops. Paul Wittenstein, who isn't here tonight, has done a spawn. We have several 100,000 bay scallops that were spawned recently. He did say that it was very difficult to get material from either Wellfleet or Chatham, which is in part indicative of the shortage of bay scallops here in the local area. I want to back up and also say this type of fishery, Cornell University has done down in Long Island. They've experienced over 1,000% increase in the wild fishery harvest, and they've experienced over 1,000% increase in the wild larvae from the spawn. One benefit to the town of this method here and our location is that in the spring, the scallops will spawn. They emit millions of larvae into the water. With the prevailing winds, we believe that the scallops will have a chance of rejuvenating the wild scallop fishery that formerly existed in Harwich here. There is eelgrass in that area that they can attach to. I've spoken to Brent Hemian. He had said that maybe 10 or 15 years ago that there were 4 or 5 boats working this area for the wild scallop harvest. So we do think that there's a lot of benefit to the town of giving us the opportunity to do this because of the spin-off of the larvae and the wild fishery.
Hang on 1 second, Mark. Just for the folks that came in, there's plenty of seats up in the front here if you want to sit. Go ahead, Mark.
Could you go to the next slide, please? So the operational plan, we deploy the base scallops in September. They grow through November. Then they are dormant through the winter, but we leave our equipment out there. The following spring and summer, they continue to grow to market size in the fall of 2022. We plan to use, the area we are at has an existing kelp setup, just one anchor system, and now that Heinz was kind enough to let us use to have 3 lantern bags to check. But it's in the same area we've been for the last 3 years. Next slide, please. Paul was going to speak about this, but he apparently couldn't make it. We've done a survey of all the local areas that have aquaculture. Paul can tell you that in the areas that he works in, he's the general manager of Aquaculture Research Corporation. He does a lot of his work on Wellfleet and Barnstable. The areas that he works in after the tide comes in has plenty of recreational boats. He said he has no problem with that. I think Glenn Fernandez at one of our meetings said that in the same area we are at, people could put 10 lobster buoys, or in his particular case, because the commercial fishermen put even more traps out there. Could you continue down, please? Okay, just a comparison of what we're asking for. Provincetown and Truro has an ADA. They have 40 acres of deep water aquaculture, and that's what we're proposing, deep water aquaculture. No floating gear or anything like that. We are down deep. Falmouth basically said that the buoys that they have, and they have aquaculture grants in Vineyard Sound, Buzzards Bay, It's no different than having lobster buoys. Can you go down, please? One other place is Chatham Kelp. They have a 40-acre permitted kelp farm west of Stage Harbor. They're allowed to leave their buoys in during the summertime, about 20 buoys. No issue with gear. Continue down, please. Go up a little bit. This is the Aquaculture Development Area in Provincetown, Truro. 40 acres, deep water, aquaculture grant. The only problem they have is that during the winter sometimes, the draggers will pull over there because in the lee side of the northeast wind and their heavy gear will damage it. Other than that, they have no issues with recreational boats. Please go down, please. Now, this is an aerial view. This is our array out in the water in May. We had already harvested it, but here are our end buoys. It's hard to see, but there are 3 other buoys right up here. And then if we did the complete install, there'd be another 3 buoys at this end, including quarter buoys. So there is not much of a footprint of what we have. We have no more than 10 buoys in that area. There is no exclusive use of our area. Any boat can travel through that area. So continue down, please. This is a photo from May. This shows the existing weirs off of Wychmere Harbor. Both Paul and I know Ernie Eldridge. It's a historical fishery. I think I point that, you cannot drive around those. You have to drive around that type of install. And I have to say that boaters know how to do that. I'm a boater sailor, and boaters know how to handle this stuff. These existing hazards out in the water. Our install, boaters can travel right through. Next slide, please. This is Chatham Kelp off of Stage Harbor. It's actually kind of interesting. Those dark lines are the kelp that's growing. But the point I want to make here is that they are allowed to keep their end buoys in the water year-round, and they have told me they have no navigational hazards there. So just to finish up, 4 points that I think is of interest or benefit to the town. We will potentially include improve the wild fishery that formerly existed. Brent Hemian said they had excellent harvests there years ago. We will remove nitrogen. Wastewater is a big thing. We will remove nitrogen from the scallop install. This is the epitome of a blue economy project, potential economic marine activity, waterfront activity. And finally, it is if we're successful with this, we expect we could have, we could hire people and develop a very good resource. If you could go to the bottom map, I just wanted to show one last thing. This is the area where we are asking to do our install. We've been in that same area for 3 or 4 years. It's off Pleasant Street Beach, about a mile. These green areas were areas we proposed to the Waterways Committee. We've checked into it further. This area here is, I'm sorry I'm shaking this, is a high voltage line that runs off Railroad Beach to Nantucket. We have discounted these areas because we don't want to dare take a chance, because we use steel anchors, of hitting that high voltage line. This area here is 1.5 miles offshore. This red line here is Chatham Roads to get around Kill Pond Bar. So we've settled on it. I contacted John Rendon today to tell him that this is the best place for us. It's deep water. We need at least 20 feet. And we've been there for 3 years. We've had no problems. And we do think more for the town's benefit, the larvae would populate all of this eelgrass area. So that's it for my presentation. I'd like the board to consider, if at all possible, we still have to get modifications of our permit from the Army Corps of Engineers and Division of Marine Fisheries. The DMF has to do a survey of the area. They have to dive to see if we're not interfering with other shellfish. We'd like a vote as soon as possible because we're due to go in September. Thank you.
Mark, thank you for your presentation. You're here tonight because the Harbor Master and the Waterways, and you can stay up there if you want. The Harbor Master and the Waterways Committee both denied you. Mm-hmm. You have the same memo that the board received on why he denied you. Mm-hmm. And only question I have before I turn it over to the board, and I'm actually going to call on our Natural Resource Director first. I'm not going to call on the Harbor Master unless the board has questions for him, because we all have that memo, and it's in the packet for the public tonight. How many other communities in Nantucket Sound do what you're asking to do?
Nobody is doing bay scallops, okay? Chatham is doing kelp, and it's similar to what I'm proposing because they keep their anchors gear in the water year-round. So they, for example, they will have, if you looked now off of Harding's Beach, there's 20 to 30 anchors there. In Nantucket Sound, that is it. Vineyard Sound, Buzzards Bay, yes, not Nantucket Sound.
So Chatham Kelp, I spoke to them today. They are allowed to leave their anchors in.
Correct.
But they have to stop fishing. And that was the other important part of what I got out of the Chatham Harbor Master and the Chatham Kelp. That not only do they have to remove their horizontal lines, but they have to stop fishing. And that's related to navigation. I'll leave it at that. I will call on Heinz Prof just to give his opinion as our Natural Resource Director.
Good evening. My name is Heinz Proft. I'm the Natural Resources Director of the town. I guess I could make a couple comments in general as it pertains to aquaculture in Harwich, as well as pertaining to Cape Cod. The thing is, it's very difficult to compare apples to apples within the towns, not only in aquaculture, pertaining to a lot of things, but Harwich is unique in the sense that we are pro aquaculture as a town. We have our own aquaculture facility where we raise quahogs and oysters and soft shells over the years. There are entities that have operations on land because they can function. The ARC facility right there at the mouth of Wixon Harbor. There's one in Allen Harbor as well. And over the years, the Natural Resources Department has done, in conjunction with people in the town, small pilot studies that were not too intrusive, short-term. I've worked with Mark over the years. It's probably been 5 years now that informally we have met in discussions looking at his operations through the Kelp. He's met with the harbor master and the conservation agent, which I've been a part of those meetings. I'm part of the waterways meetings, even though I'm not a member. I just attend those and will provide input or experience or background as it pertains to certain items, which kind of goes into their discussion, deliberations, and their final decisions to things like that. Aquaculture in towns can vary from these expansive flats, which we really don't have the benefit of having. Our areas are such small areas, whether it be Witchmere, Allen Harbor, Herring River, Saquatucket, Pleasant Bay Flat, and we provide areas for over 400 recreational shell fishermen and about 5 commercial permits per year, depending on exactly what they're going to do and where they're going. Mark has gotten one of those, and he's worked in the Kelp area, and as he mentioned, he wanted to expand and do a pilot study with scallops, which under the town's Natural Resources Department, I'm willing to shepherd and put that under our permit when it's very small and just kind of introductory in nature. In fact, we're still in the first year, Mark will correct me if it's wrong, we're still in that first year where, I don't want to say I allowed, but I was supportive of doing a study on survival and growth of scallops on that line. Things that are offshore and deep water are much more palatable than anything that would take up space that recreational permit holders would have access to. There have been discussions on navigable issues. I will, leave that to our harbor master. There's the potential of something like this taking place, but I'm not looking at this specific project as its own little entity. It's what does this open the door to down the road, a week from now, a month from now, what this area could look like, what other proponents, whatever proposals will come. Years ago, when Tom Leach was still our Natural Resources Director, we looked at the town to see if we could carve up, in a sense, areas that we could justify as a commercial permittable area, and we just couldn't get there. Not with the limited resources we had, the limited space we had, and the number of people we were trying to benefit and have access to areas. There is some dredging that takes place from time to time by I think considered recreational dredging scallops. They're allowed a 36-inch dredge. It's about 3 feet wide. And there are years, and Mr. Hemian, I've talk to them about that. We've had years where, bountiful years where they were able to get scallops. It's hit or miss, certainly. Water quality is an issue, so I think the sense that Mark has tried, I don't know what the results have been yet on this first year or in growth and survival, but I've often thought of that area that we're in there as a desert of sorts. And I'll finish up real quick by, I think that's one of the reasons the town went in and did that artificial reef, to kind of help what was out there. But again, that's very deep, off the bottom, nothing's on the surface, unobtrusive in any shape, way, or form. But I hope I've answered some questions. If I brought up something else, I'll answer them now.
Thank you, Heinz. Any questions for Heinz from the board? Larry?
Only a comment. We did, as you mentioned, Chairman, get the letter from the harbor master, and
Okay.
I appreciate the navigation issues, but I would like to find a way for this to proceed. You mentioned a couple items of water quality through the years. Various committees, we've talked about what can we do something similar to some other towns, raise clams and stuff to help us with our wastewater issues. We don't have a lot of sites in Harwich that lend itself to that type of reclamation, if you will. We have a lot of discussion Cape-wide about the so-called blue economy. I think you're directing to that, the mark is, about this is the way to start it. So I can only say I hope that there's a way to work out the navigational concerns that this can move forward. This would be a great new avenue for business and for the environment to help this out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Heinz. All right, now I'll open it up to the board for comments on the presentation. Don?
None right now.
None. Mary?
I share Larry's thoughts. Obviously, a very well-presented plan, but I also have the same concerns about navigation. And if you want to start this, and if 20 more people want to start it, where do we draw the line? But as Larry said, it would be nice to find a way that it could work.
Okay, I guess I'll continue. Mark, one hurdle is we don't have the right to overturn the harbor master's decision on moorings. That would be an appeal to you, to the state from you. We can't intercede, and we normally do not get in the way of department heads' decisions and committees' decisions, and both have said no. But sentiment of the board tonight seems to be that they're willing for further discussion. So with that, Mr. Hart?
Mr. Chairman, Matt Hart, as a private citizen, could I make a few comments?
Absolutely.
Two things. Obviously, I was in the waterways for quite a while. I'm worried about the navigation, and I'm not so worried about this one pilot, but I agree with other people. This is going to expand. What you've got out there right now is seagrass is building up. Mother Nature has worked around the problem of scallops that we used to have in Harwich, Chatham, Brewster, etc., which they say from the aquaculture people was killed by the problem with sewage and nitrogen. What you have out there now are bay scallops, and they're growing in larger and larger areas. I know in South Chatham, Forest Beach Road, where I grew up, after a storm, you can go down there and pick up 15, 20, 30 scallops that you can take home and cook. What I'm afraid of, if we allow this to go beyond just a test, there are going to be other companies that want to do the same thing, and then it will be a navigation area. And the other thing that's a problem, if these are in the water, how can anybody go out there and run a dragger? They can't. This is one of these things you got to be careful about the extenuating circumstances. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. Actually, I'm very much in favor of aquaculture. But Harwich just doesn't have the estuaries like the other towns have, where they can do these things that are getting salt water flushing back and forth, and not in the way of the boats. I disagree with the gentleman. I've had a boat here for quite a while, and that fishing weir seems to move, the one in Chatham or the one in Harwich. And if you're coming in on a foggy day, you can't see that thing. It shows up somewhat in radar if you've got the right boat. But if we're going to have other things out there and other buoys, I know I've had problems a couple times, and I didn't know there were going to be crab traps out there, and you get them caught in the propeller of your boat. You figure, hey, that's open water. All I ask is you be very concerned about this. I agree that we ought to test to see what would happen if the spat would come off the scallops. But But also take into consideration there's a large growth of larger scallops there, and there's no place else in Cape Cod that really has bay scallops. And now Nantucket's having problems because of their nitrogen problems. So Mother Nature has tried to talk to us and say, hey, here's a way we'll do it. We'll go a quarter mile out in 20 to 40 feet of water, and guess what? There's scallops there. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to talk on this?
Glenn Fernandez. I just came to support the project. I'd hate to see this thing not be supported just because there's a concern for what it could grow into. I mean, I understand there's a limit to what can happen. There's a limit to the amount of resource we have in this town. This isn't, we have Nantucket Sound, we have Pleasant Bay. It's not Dennis, Yarmouth, Barnstable, where they have flats and it's a lot easier. But this is a good place to do it. I mean, bay scallops historically grew there. I like Matt's comment that there's a bunch out there. It's the first I've heard of it. I can remember catching a whole lot off of Pleasant Street Beach, but it's been a long time. And I can remember filling buckets of them off of Red River Beach after Southwest. But that doesn't happen anymore either. And more fish in the water is something I support. And that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeff Lang, resident of Herring River and frequent boater in that area. I just would like to suggest that, like Provincetown that mapped out a specific geography of potential future aquaculture, my charts all show where the fish weir is going to be, and I pay attention to that area, whether they're out there or not. And so an area that is clearly designated that this will become our deep water aquaculture area, I think could easily be done long before it ever is overly populated. But the best part about us using bivalves to reduce nitrogen is that we have to actually harvest them. Because if they live out there and they die out there, all they've done is clean the water, but they don't change the nitrogen balance. So we have to figure out a way of being able to actually harvest the shellfish.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? So what's the board's pleasure? I mean, I would suggest,
Well, we need to bring it back. We want to do anything formally with it.
I'd suggest we have a continued conversation with the harbor master. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to include Larry in that, and then Mary, if you could just email us your comments so that we're not breaking
Sure.
open meeting law.
Sure.
And then Larry and I will meet with the
Okay.
harbor master, and we'll have continued discussions.
Okay.
And Mark, I heard your comment, time is of the essence. We won't drag our feet. Thank you. And I would reiterate that in the end, the harbor master gets to decide whether or not there's moorings there. And I think he's put a fair amount of thought into it, and anyone that reads his memo, he has not expressed once that it's just, he doesn't want it because he doesn't want it. He's looking at the navigation, he's looking at the expansion. Obviously, this is a pilot for you. If it works, expansion's obvious. And we can't just license you and nobody else. I think we have to look at the big picture. So we will have continued conversations with the harbor master, and we will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. Thank you. Thank you. Consent agenda, Mary?
I move that we vote on the consent agenda that has 4 items. First is to approve the National Multiple Sclerosis Society Walk to be held on September 10th, 2021, from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The second item is to approve the resignation of Karen Larson from the Harwich Accessibility Rights Committee. The third is to approve the Board of Selectmen public hearing minutes for April 26, 2021. And the fourth is to authorize the chair to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the town of Harwich and the Cape Light Compact to assist with preparation and planning efforts for the Regional Energy Planning Assistance Grant for 2022 through 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as read. Any discussion? Don?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just to note that perhaps in accepting Karen Larson's resignation, we could send her a letter of gratitude for her service.
Absolutely. Larry?
My comment is also regarding Karen Larson's resignation. I hate to see it, but she resigned because she was the last member on a committee that we're really struggling to populate. This is a very important committee for us in town, not only because we have to meet the federal and state ADA requirements, so it's basically a mandatory requirement, but it's for everyone that lives in town as well to try to protect them so they have rightful access to all our facilities. So I plead with anyone that's here or is watching, let us know. We'd love to fill that committee again. And you know, Don and I are on the interview committee. You get the form online. Any trouble with law, email us, and I'll email it. I'll personally take you the form. We need to. This is an important committee for us, and I hate to see it not be functional.
Thank you, Larry. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye, 4-0, Joe. Next up is the treasure chest discussion. Larry, I think I'm going to start with you. You're the one.
You skipped one.
Oh, I did?
You skipped A.
Oh, A. Discussion and possible vote to approve the change of manager application for Portside Liquors 3, Inc., 1421 Orleans Road. Any discussion from the board on this? I think it was pretty straightforward.
Right.
Husband and wife manage it, and the wife's giving the responsibility to the husband. With that, I would take a motion unless anyone has anything to say.
I move that we approve the change of manager application for Portside Liquors 3, Inc., 1421 Orleans Road.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Don?
I would note that for those who haven't read it in the packet, the police performed a background check and have found no disqualifying information.
Thank you, Don. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, 4-0, Joe. Now the treasure chest. Larry, you asked for this to be put on the agenda?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked for this put on. We shut the treasure chest down last fall when we went into the COVID-19 lockdown. And I've gotten a lot of emails. Sometimes you get emails because people have some campaign, but regardless, I think it's important to it, and I think Link is here to speak about the mechanics of that. But I'd like to remind everyone that the initial reason that we started the treasure chest were basically twofold. One was to give folks a chance to not discard something directly into the dump, but give a second person a chance to use it. And it's been well fulfilled a nice purpose for that. And the second purpose actually was to keep things out of the landfill that we now then have to discard. A lot of people took advantage of that, and there was some difficulties occasionally with respectful use, but I think those have been overcome. And so I would like to have an open discussion on it and see what the procedures would be or the interest would be in reopening it. And I understand it's been used for some other sources, but and I have to admit I have a bias as well. My wife keeps yelling at me to throw away things, and I look at that and I hate to take things that I see as being very usable to the landfill when I know someone else could use them. And I think a lot of people find them in that position. So we could make it work. I think it would be an asset to the town. But Mr. Chairman, I think I saw Lincoln Hooper come in and.
You did, and I'd be glad to put him on the spot.
That's what he's paid the big money for.
Link, if you could just go over the highlights of your report to the board that's in tonight's packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Link Hooper, DPW Director. I'm going to say it's good to see you all in person finally. This is my first in-person meeting for about a year and a half. And never thought I'd say that, but it's certainly true. And welcome, Selectman Anderson.
Thank you.
It's good to see you as well. I was asked a couple of questions by the board to answer about the treasure chest. And it was what is going on right now, what's the cost to operate it, and if I have any recommendations. Usually, when I write correspondence to the board, I usually tell you exactly what I'm looking for and requesting right off the bat. In this instance, I find myself right in the middle and not being able to make a firm recommendation. And the reason for that being is because staff is utilizing that building fully. We're currently constructing lifeguard stands in there. The facilities maintenance department has taken over that for construction activities. During the winter, we use that, and I think we shoved 4 or 5 pieces of equipment that otherwise would have been outside undercover in the building. So the facility is getting used. The cost to operate the facility back from 2019 while we were still operating, I gathered some data, and it's rather minor. Without looking at the figures, it's roughly about $5,000 in labor for the DPW staff to clean it up once a week, and about $5,000 in disposal cost of things that nobody wants that are left there that we pick up. So about $10,000 all in. The problems really arose in 2018, I believe it was, when the town of Dennis and the town of Brewster almost simultaneously shut down their swap shops. And since ours was situated out on Queen Anne Road, anybody could use it. We became remarkably popular. At that time, the volunteers were becoming overwhelmed. And we've had a good, steady, we've had a lot of volunteers. I'm going to say probably 20, 25 active, possibly even more. And some of them have been with the treasure chest for probably 20, 25 years or so. But they were becoming overwhelmed at the volume. So I made a proposal to the board. We made it a Harwich only. We issued a sticker that first year. And the real problem came in that volunteers trying to enforce that Harwich only policy was difficult at best. I actually stationed a detail officer up there on a couple of weekends. Things went remarkably smooth with an officer just in eyesight. But people would load up their cars and come and take exception if they didn't have the proper credentials or were not from Harwich and come into the facility. And that caused a fair amount of problems. A former chairman of the committee recommended a paid position, and I believe that is the answer. A very mild, very minor position. I think it was $16,000, $17,000 on an annual basis. I would hope to be able to poach one of the volunteers that have worked in the past. And I think if we had a paid personnel coordinator, call it a coordinator position, there, that it could run smoothly or more smoothly if the board chose to reopen it. But I apologize for not making a recommendation, not my normal MO, but I am 50% logistic management. We need the space, and 50% I see the intrinsic value in being able to give back the social environment that it is and allowing people in need to get stuff that they might otherwise not. One final point, there are alternatives. The food pantry runs a boutique. Then they take items, restore, and we actually issued a whole list when we started enforcing Harwich only. We issued a handout so when people showed up at the facility where there were alternatives. And I don't remember the rest of them, but there was at least 5 different places on that list that was available.
Great. Thank you, Link. Anyone? Go ahead, Mary.
Link, is there any other location that would make that easier? One of the problems I've seen is Queen Anne Road can get crazy with backup from people trying to get in and out of the treasure chest. I know some transfer stations have their swap area within the property. Is there anywhere inside that would make it easier for you and you could still have that house?
Not any, although this is an older building, that was 1968, I think my research showed. You know, it's heated space, it's dry space. We don't have anything like that existing. So this worked out pretty good until the other towns shut their swap shops down, in my opinion. We have on occasions had to get the PD involved. They're more than happy to come over and shuffle some people off of Queen Anne Road. It's not an insurmountable problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this to speak before we do board deliberation. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name's Maureen Davis. I worked at the family pantry 5 years, and the pantry does a fabulous job, but the pantry does not accept some of the items that go to the treasure chest, like toys, certain clothing. There's different standards for what they want. And wooden furniture, somewhat, it depends on the standards. But I feel it's important. I think it's environmentally sound. I think we get a group of people that do a lot of shopping there from a range of incomes in terms of clothing. There are people who redecorate. People donate really beautiful household items because they don't want to throw them away when they're making a change. But I think it's a wonderful asset to the community, and I think to recycle with the environment and not be taking good things to the dump. I'm born in such an era, I want someone to use it. I don't care what it is, but I hate to just throw things away. So I hope you'll give it every consideration. I know when I talk to people, there's a lot of support to have it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Turn it over to the board, and I'll start with Mary.
I'm kind of where Link is. There's certainly a lot of pluses to it. I've gotten the string of emails from, I'm sure you gentlemen have as well. It is a good service, and certainly Ms. Davis, was that your name, is correct. A lot of other places are a little more particular. The pantry's taking things that furniture-wise, they know they can sell. So it's another layer. Restore is similar, the other thrift shop. So it's another layer of stuff. I get that. But I've also seen Queen Anne Road. I won't go there. I went there a few times when we first moved here, and I said, I'm never going there again. The people were outright nasty. The volunteers as well as the other people dropping stuff off. I'm very torn.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, the bottom line here is that this was supposed to be addition by deletion. We were supposed to have something so that we could take things out of the trash stream that were still reusable. So if we can remember what the mission was originally, I don't know that I've ever seen a reaction like this in the 10 years I've served as a selectman, both going back in the early 2000s or now. There's huge support for this. But having said that, I am not a big fan of acting as the people's court where we start to design something on the fly at a public meeting. My suggestion would be to utilize the assets we have, which is Link and the committee that exists, and have them come to a meeting of the minds about what the problems are, what the proposed solutions of them are, and come back to us with what that plan looks like to address the traffic that's pouring out on the Queen Anne Road, the possibility that this could be done in a more orderly way. And I heard nothing about being able to approach this area from behind, from within the facility, because it is accessible that way. I'm looking at this as an onion peel. Before we actually get to the point of saying yes or no, I would love to see people who actually know what they're doing and have operated it get in a room and say, here are the problems, and here's what we propose to do to solve them. And but personally, I'm really receptive to hearing if they could resolve them, that we can open this as soon as it would be practicable.
Thank you, Don. Larry?
Well, you know where I'm a proponent for the reasons as stated. Mr. Chair, I would offer to get a group together and see if I could follow up and bring some specific suggestions back.
Thank you, Larry. You are the treasure chest liaison. So, Don, to your point, having the group come back and rewrite it, I included in the packet tonight every variation of the charge there was, and you can see how much they've changed. And as much as I appreciate all of the 40 or 50 emails we got saying reopen the treasure chest, it was a disaster. It was a disaster on Queen Anne Road trying to get to the dump. And now we're also faced with capital expenses. Well, the town neglected its buildings for so long, we finally have invested in a maintenance division, and that maintenance division really has nowhere to operate. That's the building they're operating out So to extend the charge that Larry just offered to run, this is going to be a cost to the town. And I would look at future capital costs, because I know the DPW was talking about another building at some point for exactly what we're talking about. Tom Caruso, who I believe is sitting, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, took over the last rendition of the Treasure Chest Committee and did a phenomenal job. Organized it, but we did still have to use our police department to go up there and direct traffic and get rid of unruly people. And now we have our police department spread in as the noise police, and we're gonna send them to the treasure chest during the day and to the police department at night. I think a lot of thought needs to be given to the capital cost. Link said a new employee at $16,000 plus the current $10,000 cost. And we're gonna ask for that at the same time that we're asking department heads to give back money every year because we have a money shortfall. I'm not sure that it's the most responsible decision. And again, I'm not sure Brewster and Dennis closed theirs because they didn't get the same pressures that we're getting to open them. So I would welcome it to come back, but I would ask that it comes back complete
My,
with a sign off from the finance director on money.
you know, I can only agree with all you said, Michael. And you do refer to, we've had, over the years, we've looked at updating the charge. We've looked at updating how people should respect each other during the, and orderly. What we haven't looked at, in the way I'd like to look at again, are the mechanics of the operation. I think in the past years, we've talked, as Don's mentioned, are there other routes in there that would make it, we could control better? Are we looking at all the facilities? You know, we've looked at your organization. We haven't looked at overall of what, are there possibilities to make it functionally operate better and in an expense that we can handle?
Okay. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I actually agree with both of you, and they're not irreconcilable. What I'm hoping for is that we send this back, Larry sits down with them, and they create something concrete, like a business plan. How are you going to do what you're doing? What are the obstacles we've seen in the past? How are you going to address those obstacles? And moving forward, what does this thing look like with a concrete recommendation? Because right now, it's, do you want to open this or do you not want to open this? And that's too vague. We have to admit that there were problems, that there are potential cost implications to this, and there's got to be like a business plan. How do we do this?
Mary, anything further?
No, I think that's a great idea, and I am with you. You know, the money part of it is an issue, so.
Larry, I would only ask that you include Link, because I would really like to know.
I'm going to start with Link.
Okay, I'd like to know the future. I'd like to know the future of the maintenance division. So, with that, Larry, we'll look forward to your report.
Okay.
See.
Joe, the next one is you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you, members of the board. As you'll see in your packet, you have a memo from me dated today regarding the latest activities on the Chloe's Path proposed development. As you'll recall, this is a proposed rental development that's adjacent to Sisson Road. I met last week with attorney Andrew Singer for his updates. Beyond what's in the memorandum, I also remind the board, Mr. Singer and his team presented to the administration staff and most of our department heads to just have town departments be aware of what's being contemplated. It was a very informative meeting back in June. They're now progressing to the point where they're engaging in community engagement efforts, and that it means to say that they'll be meeting on Tuesday, July 20th at our public safety building at 6 p.m. For the purpose of hearing from the general public on what they're proposing. So community engagement is one of those things that they are recommended to do, and they're prepared to do that next week. Additionally, Attorney Singer informed me that the developers, as they've told us before, are looking to have this potentially be considered what is referred to as a friendly 40B. To do so, they must initiate a process known as the Local Initiative Program, or LIP. So Attorney Singer and representatives of Chloe's Path Housing are scheduled to come before you on July 26th, your next meeting, to discuss that process and take the next steps. And so there's a lot that's going on. I guess the major items I wanted to put out tonight is that there is a community engagement forum set for next Tuesday, July 20th, 6 p.m. So anybody in the public that's interested in finding out more about this proposed development is certainly welcome to attend that. And then that the board should expect that Attorney Singer and representatives will be back to do a more formal presentation.
Thank you, Joe. Questions or comments from the board?
None.
Set?
Nothing.
All set. Public, anyone want to talk? Moving on. Joe, this one is yours as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased to tell you all that related to Articles 17 and 40 of the annual town meeting, I will be releasing a request for proposals. And I now see a typo in my memo where I call that an RFP. That's going to bother me. The RFP will be going out first on the Central Register, which is required. That'll appear on the Central Register next Wednesday, July 21st. And then after that publication, it will appear in the Cape Cod Chronicle for 2 consecutive weeks. As the board will recall, 5 Bell's Neck is what was referred to as the West Harwich Schoolhouse. It's in terrible shape, however, still standing and still has potential use. So we will be looking for anyone out in the general public that is interested in acquiring that property, so it would be for sale, and that the town would be contemplating through the board historic preservation restrictions as well, and that'll all be documented in the RFP. So again, the RFP is being released next week. It'll be on the town's website in the Central Register for the announcement itself and in the Cape Cod Chronicle. If the entire process, as is required by Chapter 30B, goes to that schedule, I anticipate coming before you on September 7th, not to rush the summer, but that's your first meeting after Labor Day, for the board to award a contract and perhaps engage in a historic preservation restriction agreement. So very thrilled to announce that there is progress being made on that property.
Thank you, Joe. Comments from the board? Larry?
Just happy it's moving forward.
Thank you. Don?
Mary first.
Oh, all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everybody knows I was on the board when the South Harwich Meeting House got done. I know that there's varying opinions about this building, but it's really part of our past, part of our history. But having said that, this is that moment in time where people need to stand up and be counted. So this goes out. This is that moment. That building needs some loving care, and it needs somebody to adopt it as much as contract for it. So whoever in the community is interested, they better respond to this.
Thank you, Don. I noticed some of our friends from West Harwich. Did anyone want to speak? All set. Duncan?
Duncan Berry, Director of the Planning Board. Thrilled to see that this is happening, and delighted to inform you that we have a group of people who have pledged what I would consider to be a pretty substantial chunk of money toward the acquisition and transfer of it for historical preservation purposes and for, use as a kind of a civic center. And so we look forward to seeing the RFP, Joe, and doing our part and participating in the process. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. All right,
F.
moving on to G. Or is
F.
it F. F.
E.
E?
I'm all
Some
over-
member,
I'm all over the place.
some letter of
We
the
need Carol
alphabet.
tonight.
Finance Director will tell you E is
Finance
next.
Director, please. I bet Jamie that we'd be done by 8:30.
Good evening. I have some great news for Harwich
You
tonight.
do.
And I'm happy to share with you this information. As you are aware, but some folks in the audience may not be aware, the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund was established in December of 2018 to protect the water, the quality of the water for all of the Cape and Islands. That was funded through a 2.75% excise tax on traditional lodging and short-term rentals. And that goes directly to the management board of this fund. Selectman Howell sits on that fund, sits on that board, excuse me. And that board has awarded the town of Harwich almost $1.4 million to reduce the debt load for the sewer construction project. The town of Harwich was approved by the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust. You may hear it referred to as MCWT. So that's what that acronym means, for $22,214,000 and nearly $500. Well, because the town was provided this nearly $1.4 million, in addition to a principal forgiveness from the trust, that loan balance has dropped now to $20,257,540. And as you're also aware, or you should be aware, the town was awarded a 0% interest rate on that debt. Those bonds have not been sold yet by the trust. We expect them to be sold this summer, so we'll be able to certainly give you final debt schedules once that has occurred. But I just wanted to provide that great news to you. There's nothing that the board needs to do to accept it, and just information for you and the public.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Comments from the board? Don?
Just gratified that it took as long as it took, but we finally are seeing some tangible results from it.
Great. Thank you. Mary?
Thank you, Carol, and if you could do that every week, I'd appreciate it.
Don? Larry?
Yes, Carol, we expect it now.
All right. Now we're on F.
I move that we vote to appoint a member from the list of Democratic Committee to the Board of Registrars: Ray Gottwald, Susan Weinstein, Mary Egan.
Second.
I second.
Okay, discussion. Don?
Have none.
Is there, I would ask if there's a recommendation.
I might add that we are confirming.
We're confirming what
We're
comes to
confirming a
us.
recommendation for the town clerk.
I understood that we were putting these three people on the Board of Registers. Is that correct? No. What are we doing?
Don? Interview committee?
You need to pick one.
Oh,
I would like to suggest Ray Gottwald. Very solid individual, very knowledgeable in government activities.
I would second Ray.
I move we
did.
we moved all three, right? But we haven't moved.
no, he just moved
Okay,
Ray.
second, okay.
It's never a second.
From the list of
Second it.
recommendations.
I'll second it then.
All right, any discussion? Anyone want to bring anyone else forward out of that list?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Didn't mean to throw you on. Okay, G.
I move that we vote to approve the weekday and Sunday entertainment license for Lucky Labrador, Inc., DBA Perks, 545 Route 28, weekday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., ambient background music and/or television outside, and Sunday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., live or recorded music with amplification outside. Sunday license is a modification to what was previously approved.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Discussion. I know the owners of Perks are here. Do you want to stand up and tell us what you're looking for?
Yes, hi, I'm Taylor Powell. My wife Sarah and I own Perks. Met all you guys before. Won't take too much of your time on this. I guess this kind of goes back to all the noise problems and permit language and everything that's happened in the past. I just want some clarification on that. And right now, our permit currently says pre-recorded or live music, meaning ambient background noise or TVs are included in that permit. Well, we've operated solely outdoors for 12 years. There's a Red Sox game. That means at 10:01, we can get a alleged liquor license violation, and it goes before the board just for having our TV on. So we even keep the volume off our TV. We just kind of want this whole thing clarified in the language of the permit so we can operate that way and not get in trouble and not have the police called or coming in or create a problem for anybody. So that's really what it comes down to, that ambient background noise or music that's not emanating past the property line is not a nuisance, and it shouldn't be considered one. So if a resident in the town of Harwich can have his TV on and his radio on, he's not disturbing anybody. There's no reason just because we have a license to serve alcohol, we shouldn't be able to do the same thing, in my opinion. And the way it's written with the indoor permits, we had it clarified on our last one, but it says that all indoor music must stop at midnight. And all bars and restaurants don't turn their TVs and music off at midnight. Maybe the live music stops at midnight, but if the way the language in the permits was written, if businesses operated that way, that would mean all outdoors would stop at 10, period. All indoors would stop at midnight, period, and that's not the case. So I'm just trying to clarify that. We're willing to work with the town and the neighbors, obviously, to monitor it. I've installed a $9,000 sound system with Nantucket Sound where I can control it all from my phone. You can't even hear it or know where it's coming from, but we just obviously don't want guests to walk up and leave. We have a short season. I think we have like 54 days left. So if there's a game on, they're watching it, they're excited. I don't want to have to turn it off and worried about the cops getting called or neighbors knowing that they can't call the cops, because we're not going to call the cops on people if they're watching their TVs outside on their patio. So that's basically why I made this request to come before you. I think Don had some good points at one of the last hearings before in discussion about what really is a liquor license violation. And I think with given our track record of not having one of those, meaning over-serving, underage serving, something really bad happening, where we monitor that, we do a good job of that, that this is something we're willing to work with the board and the town to keep it reasonable, just so we can operate our business in a short season.
I would just reiterate what you said prior to that and work with the neighbors.
Right.
You know, this is, for me, a clarification, because our entertainment licenses read that live music and recorded music has to stop at 10, but our entertainment bylaw encompasses TV and ambient background music. So by shutting them off at 10, we are shutting off their any ambient background music and any television. Joe, I would hate to put you on the spot, but any comments on this?
Well, since you've asked, yeah, I would urge the board to reject the request as presented. I think there are some modifications that could be adopted. Looking at the matrix that the board has in front of you that staff has provided, we can see that the establishment for outside presently enjoys a weekday entertainment from 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. With the request, I see it happening two ways. First, they're looking to go to an earlier time, 11:30 to 11 a.m. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with the 11 a.m., but I think we're inviting a host of problems after 10 p.m. with noise, not only in that area, but throughout town. I appreciate what the establishment's trying to do, and I don't fault them for trying to do it. But I think if we're now introducing the concept of, if we are now licensed to do ambient background noise and television, where I'm not aware of any allegation against any establishment during my time or previously that was related to what would be considered ambient noise, far different from some of the complaints we've heard, or background or television. So I think if the board goes down this route after 10 p.m., we're going to be flooded with requests, and we're going to really just muddy what I think the board has done a great effort to unmuddy over the last several weeks. So respectfully, if the question is, what do I think about 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., I would urge the board not to adopt it. If you ask me if there was middle ground, it would be anything up to including 10 p.m., mornings no earlier than 11. And then with regard to, it indicates requesting Sunday, I think we would just want to be mindful of church services.
Okay. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With apologies, I've spent the better part of the last year and a half trying to grapple with this problem on all these entertainment licenses, and it would be it would be ignorant of me, actually, to not understand that we have a problem, and it's not just the problem from Perks; it's the totality of what's going on. There's a subsection in here that Joe didn't mention, but on Sunday now it's going to morph to live recorded music with amplification outside, which was specifically what the last motion I made didn't allow. It was for acoustic entertainment. I can't support it. I mean, I just can't, because Pandora's already left the box. So we have a number of different establishments, and to start going down this road would be to actually invite us to be criticized for being disparate in the way we're treating people. We're trying to pull back, not enhance. And while I get the ask here, which is, geez, it would be better for our business, at some point or another, from my perspective, and I'm going to be very consistent even with the next request, at some point or another, we have to decide if the objective here is entertainment and drinking, or if it's restaurants and eating. And there's so many of these places to be able to try to peel this back and enforce anything at the same time as we're actually going to allow more on this location. I think we're inviting trouble, and I just can't vote for the way this is presented.
1 second. You all set, Don?
Yeah.
Taylor?
I just want to make, can I answer both their
sure
statements? So we have adjusted and adapted. I had music booked every night. I had music booked every night of the summer. We've canceled it. We don't have any live music. It's gone. We got rid of it because the way that the bylaw is being interpreted and the way it's being enforced. We don't want to go before the board before an alleged violation when we're within our right, our permits. Well, I'm not trying to talk about music permits or anything. I'm trying to avoid just shutting my business down at 10 p.m., which is what we're asking for. And to be honest, we've had our TV on. We've been here for 12 years. We've had light background music. You haven't heard it. You haven't heard any complaints, like you said, because it hasn't been an issue. I just want that clarified in the permit. So if someone is called, we're not presented with an alleged violation and go before the board to be reviewed of it. But in response to what you guys are saying, you're saying we should shut down at 10 o'clock and we'd be done. And that's not what we're here to do, because we have a license that goes to 1.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up, how would this even work? If you're not cutting any of this stuff off until 1 a.m., how do you get everybody out of the building in 10 minutes?
Oh, we have procedures. We have procedures for that. I mean,
You'd have to go up.
Yeah, well,
I'll answer that. I'll answer that. So I meet with my staff pre-shift every night, which is part of, hey, we're out of this. This is what we're going to do. This happened last night. Let's fix this. So at 12:30, we do last call. We do it before most other places. At 12:40, we start walking around, telling people to wrap it up and to leave. 12:45 sharp, we shut the fire pit and the lights down. So it's like, oh, people, yeah, and everything, basically. So people know it's time to go. But before 1 o'clock, all drinks are out of everybody's hands. Everyone's off the property. We're not going to the 1:15 grace period that the town and the license allows. We want them out of there. We don't do shots after a certain time. We're trying to get, anything rowdy. We after midnight, we don't need any trouble, So we're sticking to that regardless of what we're here before you today. And I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I mean, this is something that places do. If a neighbor can do it, I just don't understand what the difference is, really. I guess Sarah wants to say something.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hey, I'm Sarah Powell, Taylor's wife. Any restaurant or bar that you'd go to with outside, it's going to have music on. If you go to a restaurant in Hyannis that's open till midnight, they're going to have background music on. It's not an unreasonable request. We're not asking to blare speakers. We're not asking for live music. We just don't want to get in trouble for having background noise on or a Red Sox game on. Like, we're actually being respectful by coming in front of you instead of just being like, whatever, we're going to do it anyway. So I just don't see what the issue is. And I think you guys have a lot of people who write to you and complain. I think they're a lot of the same people. We've addressed those people. We are willing to work with them. We're doing everything we can. But again, it's a short season. We're working our butts off. This is our livelihood. And for us to have to turn everything off at 10 o'clock, we might as well just close our doors at 10 o'clock. Because people hear it's silent and they're like, all right, time to go.
Thank you. Mary?
I have total respect for the two of you. Out of all the ugliness of noise, and there's been a ton of it, you're the two that are actually trying to make things work. And I respect that. What I don't know how to do is how to help you without screwing up the whole we can't be hearing noise 150 feet away from any establishment after 10 o'clock. And are you 100% outside? Is your business all outside, or?
Now there's an indoor component, but,
It's small.
I mean, this request is to keep it confined within the property lines, not even that 150 feet.
Yeah.
That, you know, we won't have volume on our TV. It'll be playing if there's a game on, the game stays on.
I mean, Mary, we do checks. You can't even hear it past our, if you've been where we are, it goes down the path. You can't hear that music that's on, that background, past our patio.
And then after that, after the permit time, 10 o'clock stops, goes way down. It's just very faint in the
He's
background.
psycho about it.
Yeah, I don't want to, we don't
Like,
want to have a
hold on.
violation of any kind, so.
I just don't know how to fix that for you.
I mean, I think if we're allowed to have it, and if it goes beyond the 150 feet, then yeah, we get a violation, which we should get a violation, because we're breaking the rule.
Right.
But I mean, give us a chance.
Yeah, that would be my request before the board today, would to, obviously you guys issue the permits and write them, that if we do break the rules, then we're fine. We're ready to face the music and
Which we
literally,
should.
and get penalized for it, that we can see how the rest of the season goes. Next year, you gotta rewrite the permits anyway, or sign them. We can come before you again. You can change whatever you need to change, but, I mean, here we are. I just don't wanna create an unnecessary work for not only the police, but also for the board, and then Mr. Power's valuable time to sit before him, that we thought we heard a light music or something there at 10:01 PM, in a busy summer downtown commercial district.
I hear you.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion, and I like the fact you're talking to the neighbors. But let me ask you, I'm missing something here. If no one hears you outside of the 150 yards, why is this an issue then?
Because that's the way it's written in our permit, and we don't want to get in trouble.
But you're not playing music, you're just playing TV and so-called ambient noise.
Yeah, light background music. It shouldn't be an issue at all, and it's not, and it never is for us, but it's written in this permit where we're basically set up for, if somebody calls.
But you're set up for no entertainment, right? It
Correct,
doesn't-
and we wouldn't have, I mean, we don't even have live music
But-
anymore, but regardless, we stopped that at 9 o'clock.
But we've never defined entertainment as ambient noise.
That's
It's
how
in the
written.
entertainment
Yeah.
bylaw.
It's in the entertainment license?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately,
Okay.
and that's why we're here.
Okay, that's my mistake
I'm
then.
gonna switch over to the town administrator.
It is written that way, but my earlier comments still stand. The applicant before you is asking you to create a license that does not exist to address a situation that has not occurred for one establishment. The town has never indicated violations regarding ambient noise. We have indicated violations or alleged violations, and I'm not speaking about this establishment, I'm speaking about other establishments in prior cases, where there was noise emanating from an establishment that was created by patrons leaving the place. That's not ambient noise, that's patrons leaving a licensed establishment. That's well documented in your regulations. The issue that I have is that one establishment is asking you to create a certain license for them to guard against an allegation that has not existed and does not presently exist. If this board adopts that for this singular applicant, I guarantee the town's gonna have more applicants, and then what are we doing? We are effectively reducing the noise bylaw to go beyond 10 PM. And if I could just very quickly, the comment was made that the town is trying to put them out of business, or something to that effect.
Nobody said that.
That we're putting you out of business by
I
doing.
said if
I'm
we
not
have
gonna
to
have a
run
back
the
and forth. I
meeting-
have the floor,
One-
Mr.
One at
Chairman.
a time, please. He's speaking. You can
Alright,
correct
sorry.
him.
Go ahead, sorry about that.
I want to state for the record that this board does not oppose businesses, that this board and their agents have done everything they can to support businesses. I am suggesting that the action proposed is not going to benefit the applicants as they think it will, and is not going to benefit the Board of Selectmen or the town as people think it will. And this is not the time to be asking for this.
Don,
Just to complete that,
hang on one second. Don?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to point out to everybody here, as the licensure board, that you don't license individuals. You license the location, and the applicants are the owners of that location or the managers of that location. In this request, and I quote, "live and/or recorded music with amplification outside, requesting Sunday, 6 to 9." If this place were to get sold and we didn't have good neighbors in front of us tonight, We just experienced a horrible set of hearings to try to pull back something that got out of hand. It isn't as simple as we go next year and just say, well, that was a mistake. Let's reduce this back to this. It becomes a real problem, and we're in litigation right now because of that. You got to think about this in terms of you are creating a circumstance for the facility itself, not for the particular licensee.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I was only going to say, I stand corrected. I miss Joe. Thank you for the clarification. I respect where you're coming from, but I agree with the others. I don't see how we can make an exception and enforce our licenses throughout the town.
Well, just one more comment. I respect everything that everyone said here, but Mr. Powers, we are before you for an alleged violation for music that might have been coming from our place that officers couldn't really discern at the time, but when they wrote the report, they said, I think I heard light background music after 10 p.m., and you can determine if it's an alleged violation or not when we do come see you and have that hearing that's been postponed. And we talked about that the other day. But yeah, so basically we're going to try to play by the rules and do everything we can. Hopefully you guys could find in your heart not to hold businesses in this regard of getting in trouble for nothing, really, that there's nobody that's called, and then we can still, if the officer happens to walk by and hear something, or he's there for another reason, can write this, and then now we have a liquor license violation. It's got nothing to do with liquor license. We didn't break any liquor license law. So there's just a disconnect between the way those liquor licenses are written and then these music permits are written.
Thank you.
We're trying to fix that, and hopefully we can tonight.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, really.
Joe?
Thank you. To that last comment, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it would be wholly inappropriate for me to respond in that regard, as it would have been inappropriate for me to make reference to the alleged violation that does have a hearing scheduled that was postponed because the police department was not able to participate last week. But now that that issue has been brought up, that is another reason why this action would be completely inappropriate, because this board is being asked tonight to change conditions that are presently, based on our police department, potentially illegal. So for them to ask for this licensure, if the board would have granted tonight, the first thing that I would hear as his hearing officer on your behalf is, it's no longer illegal. It is an inappropriate time to bring it forward. It's an inappropriate manner to bring it forward. And last but not least, this is not about this one establishment. What you do on entertainment licenses generally, or what you do specifically, impacts what you will do generally. And I would argue again that the time for the town to change things is not midstream.
Thank you. Anything further from the board?
No.
No.
1 second. I think I'm getting a sense the board's going to vote no on this, which would be moot for people to speak against it. But I would say, are you going to speak for it or against it?
Neither.
Okay. Identify yourself for the record, please.
Hi, Diane Leduc, East Harwich. I can't say I know a whole lot about this, but it appears that there's a miscommunication and that the way things are written is not totally clear. They're just asking you to clear up the language in the permits. No, that's not what's going on?
So, Joe, do you want to take a stab at this? I mean, ultimately, the entertainment licenses encompass televisions and background music. It's all written into one, correct?
Correct.
So because it's all written into one, their entertainment license ends at 10 o'clock. The confusion is nobody's ever made a complaint about a television or ambient background music, so they, as well as others, have done this. They're before us tonight, responsibly, in my mind, asking us, and maybe we wouldn't agree on the times, but responsibly asking us to change the licenses so that television and ambient background music isn't in the license. And I do hear Joe's point and as to why he doesn't think we should approve it, and certainly respect the comments of the other board members. But I do think, in general, a conversation about our entertainment licenses and televisions and ambient background music should be in the near future, at least in my opinion. Unfortunately, right now, it says television and ambient background music. So that's what our entertainment license definition states. And that's what the board's being asked to vote on tonight, and I think we've all heard why the board members and the town administrator are not supporting it. Don?
guess quickly, it does actually not stop at ambient background music. It does say live and/or recorded music with amplification outside. That's in this application.
For Sunday, correct? Don? For Sunday.
For Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Let's
That's
just-
here.
Okay, and we have the ability to deny portions of it and approve portions of it. We don't have to take it in its entirety, but I am getting the sense where the board's going.
Good evening. Angela McNamara, Bank Street, Harwichport, and I'm not taking any type of stance, but I didn't like the spin on the Taylors. I really don't like that. They're a very positive part of this community. They're trying to do the right thing, whether the board approves what they're wanting to do or not. They are great people. I was with Taylor the other night. He was showing me his new sound system that they have up there. It's fabulous. We really need to just take it down with this young couple. They're trying to do the right thing. You know, I didn't like the tone at all. As a citizen, I did not like the tone.
Thank you, Angela. And just to put an extra title here, Angela spent weeks of her life talking about noise as the chair of our ad hoc noise containment committee. So she's versed on some of this, and
Yeah.
as well as some of the confusion.
The
So,
negativity and the confusion of people on both sides of the issue.
Right.
And that includes everybody.
thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Bob?
Hi, Bob Nickerson. I'm not going to say anything about what I had before because of the direction it went. But what I wanted to say was, as you go forward and think about this, just some thoughts in this. So I mean, having a TV on doesn't bother me. I didn't know they didn't have music on or not. It didn't appear to say that. I mean, the TV on. But what I see when that happens is a group of people drinking, watching the baseball game, and then something happens and they yell. That's what we do, right? It was a foul ball, no, it wasn't a foul ball, whatever. Those are things in a neighborhood environment that can be just as loud as a non-active TV. So I'm not saying you don't go forward with this, but I think you want to think about some of these things if you move down this path of how you keep this somewhat controlled.
Thank you, Bob.
James Horgan. I have a quick question about when is actual live music allowed? Can the restaurants all throughout Route 28 in Harwichport, can they have live music at the present time? Is there a penalty for doing that? I'm kind
I'll
of
give you
confused.
my list because we'll have others, but if you want, we did finally make a matrix as to every business, what they're permitted for. So it's based on an entertainment license.
So is there a noise violation if someone sings and has amplified music at the present time?
Depends on what time that is and what their license date. So if their license goes till 10 o'clock and their entertainment license is till 10 and they're not going 150 feet past the boundary line or source of amplification, no.
And is it noise or is it audible lyrics? I've heard that here before too. It's just
We exhausted this in nauseam. It's any noise. It's not
up 150 feet away.
150 feet.
So
There's no lyrics test anymore.
I know the town has a separate entertainment license with the Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
And anything kind of goes up until 8 o'clock at night. And I had a question with the chief if he got one complaint last Wednesday. And he said no. So can everybody play music till 8 o'clock at night?
It's a Chamber of Commerce sponsored event. So you'd have to talk to Cindy from the Chamber of Commerce and see who she has picked for what location. And then the restaurants that are permitted for entertainment. And Cindy, we don't need a long conversation on this, please. Sorry. And then the licensed establishments, Port, Ember, Perk, they're allowed to play in their indoor facilities, outdoor facilities.
So someone can have a sing-along now? You can sing Happy Birthday, and is that a noise violation if it goes 150 feet?
If you're inside of a licensed establishment and it's after 10 o'clock, or even during 10 o'clock, and you sing Happy Birthday, and it's loud enough for somebody that's angry about it, yes, that's a noise.
So you can't sing Happy Birthday in Harwichport any longer if
Well,
it goes beyond 150 feet?
Well, I think I think the question is not a serious question, because again, we have entertainment licenses, and we have a noise bylaw. Not our noise bylaw, a town noise bylaw, the town meeting voted. Until somebody changes that, there's a 150-foot rule. So actually, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be very quick. Cindy Williams, Executive Director of the Harwich Chamber. After a long winter, the Chamber sat back, talked about what we were going to do for coming out of COVID with the Wednesday nights. We now have 3 bands scattered throughout various businesses that do not have entertainment licenses. Heather's Airport or Gibson Real Estate will be one of them, the far end. Middle is Cape Roots Market, and the far end is the Gray House. We have 2 hired by the Chamber of Commerce sponsored police details. 5 to 8 is the new time, not 6 to 9. We're not playing with any of the crazies. We're just going to help have everyone enjoy a family fun event. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's time we vote on this. So, motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
That would be to approve.
That's correct, the motion. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we vote to approve a new 2021 weekday and Sunday entertainment license, Chase Escape Cape Cod LLC, DBA Summer House Cafe, 126 Route 28, weekday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., and Sunday, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m., recorded or live music with amplification and dancing inside.
Any second? I'll second it for discussion. And I want to point out, because there was a couple emails today based on the application, the motion is for amplification, recorded live music with amplification and dancing inside. This is, nobody's asking right now for entertainment outside, and that's not part of the motion.
Okay.
With that, state your name and name for the record.
Nicholas Fiorello and
Tom
Thomas.
Bellini.
Thank you. Tell us what you want to do, briefly.
Thank you for the time this evening, and we've been following from afar all the different ins and outs of what's been happening here in the town with entertainment, and we're well aware of the former Irish pub and its long, steeped, rowdy history of what's happened there, talking with different neighbors in the general Captain's Row neighborhood, and what we're proposing and what we're now well on our course to hopefully relaunch as soon as possible is a very unique, wonderful project that happens to have the sale of alcohol, that will happen to have some, entertainment that goes along with that. But it's really about the property and its 200-plus year history, and it's very, very unique as we've gotten into the redo of the Captain Chase property, and then discovering through stuff in the basement and different things. This has been around a long time. I think the earliest article I could find was from 1903, where Captain Chase talks about good cheer, and he basically, again, I'm new to Harwich, just a new resident, but I was so excited to offer what that property and the joy that he had summering there to the general public, and the inn and the component and the food and the fare. It just became really exciting. And I guess I'm here to say, and I'm open for discussion and questions, we have a different path forward with the inn and the innkeeper's license, the cottages on the property. The building itself is really a gem, and we hope that you guys will approve it and give us a chance to show the board that we can operate within the guidelines that you guys have put forth. Again, just watching from afar all this wonderful stuff that's going on with entertainment. And we hope that we'll, be given a fresh start, and that you'll trust that I mentioned, and somebody mentioned it, wrote it like a steward. We're really just here, I think, for the next 25 years, our lease says, and maybe pass it on to the next steward that hopefully will continue what we plan on doing, which is really establish something, maybe a like a Witchmere for the locals kind of experience there, where we would want some entertainment. We would want to see some locals, an affordable event or a wedding at the property. We will have entertainment. We hope to be coming back to you guys at some point in the future possibly talking about extending it to a year-round place and doing things with Christmas and inviting, you know, the bed and breakfast traveler to come through and experience Harwich in the off-season as well. So we've got a lot of big plans, and we hope you support and give us a chance to continue the new chapter of
Great.
Captain Chase.
Thank you. Can you give us briefly, how long until you think you're going to be open?
So we are in the midst of trying to put together what we talked earlier about with the town, our phase one, and we're hopeful that the board will approve and hold here in safekeeping our entertainment and allow us to go through the process to get the final inspection from the building department to have our place reopened. And we've had some delays. Help is very sparse right now. There's a lot of other developments, rehabs going on, and I'm a developer myself, and I have my own commitments off Cape, and we're just putting together the bootstrap college try to get the place open, and we're hopeful to have our final electrical inspection sometime this week. We'll be able to close up some new lighting fixtures we put in, and the bar tops are in, and the painting's just about complete. The shutters are ready to go up. So we also are asking that you guys, it's very important to trying to plan the future of what happens there, especially with some of these requests for this farmhouse type wedding or event, that if a bride's going to book, they want to know they can have an inside band at some point and things. And we kind of need that seal of approval from the town that we're going to be able to offer entertainment. So
Thank you.
a hybrid
Perfect, thank you.
would prove it.
We're gonna,
subject to-
this time we're going to start with the public. Just when you stand up, state your name for the record. Sure. Larry, can you take chair for a minute? Go ahead.
My name is Tom Dudek. I am a resident of West Harwich. I live on the Herring River. If you look up the river, looking past their new establishment, my house sits out on the point. You heard from me last year when you approved the outdoor entertainment on your COVID regulation for the pub. It was a disaster. The noise travels over the water as if it's right in your home. So outdoor entertainment in this place at the gateway to the conservation area is a bad idea. I hope that these groups' business is extremely successful. I wish nothing but the best for them. But what they have to understand, and what I think the board does understand, is noise travels on the water a lot differently than it travels with trees and buildings in between. So you have to be very, very careful in this location about approving anything that's going to generate noise. So I hope they're successful. I just don't want what we had last year, where I felt like I had a band in my house on Saturday night with the pub. So thank you.
Are you comforted by the request for, excuse me, not outdoor entertainment, but indoor?
Yeah, I thought that the application honestly caused me to be suspicious when they were talking about outdoor entertainment as the pub had it last year with the COVID regulation. I mean, to me, that was a little suspicious, seemingly innocuous, but why was it there? And so to me, I just think that the business and the board needs to be very, very careful in this environmentally sensitive location about noise and how it transmits across water. Because last year, as I said, it was a disaster, and I sent you videos. I mean, I had people screaming, encore, encore, basically, as if they were in my backyard. So you just have to be careful. That's my advice.
Anyone else in the public here to speak? Lou, go ahead.
Lou Urbana, West Harwich. I don't have much to say except I hope that they're very successful in their business, but there are many causes for concern. One, I live on Riverside. For years, the Irish pub has been a pain in my neck only because the entertainment isn't just 150 feet. You see, there's a whole entertainment that occurs when a pub closes, and that's those people in groups of 5 and 10 that leave and walk down the streets and wake up every resident as they go. It's those people living along the streets that have to replace their fences because someone who's had too much alcohol kicks them in. So I'm conflicted in terms of any business. One, I want businesses to succeed. But this is a unique opportunity because the neighborhood is there and the business is coming into the neighborhood. So we can set some ground rules. One of the questions that I have, Mr. Chair, through you, is what are and what does the business see as the rights of the neighbors right around that establishment? What rights do the neighbors have? We know what rights the businesses have. It's all in the license. But you know, it sounds perfectly okay to have a band playing till midnight. Well, I don't know about you, but at my age, I go to bed around 9:30. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity, and hopefully that question is answered.
Thank you, Luke.
Hi, James Horgan again. I just think that these gentlemen here, I think they're going to cater to an older set. I think a lot of these West Harwich folks, they're all going to be probably attending and showing up and supporting their business. So I think we just give these fellows a chance and see how they are. I don't think you're going to have 65-year-old and 70-year-old people rolling down Riverside, screaming and yelling and urinating on people's property. So I think we should give them a chance.
Thank you. Nope. You may in a minute. You next.
Virginia Doyle,
But you have
West
to go
Harwich. I don't think we can assume anything. It's nice to think we can assume that we're all going to be 65 and older attending this new venture, but I think that's the wrong assumption. I have lived here for a number of years, and the Irish pub, you can't even imagine the litter that created, the noise that it created. And I think that we have to be very careful about switching this license, entertainment license, as it was with the Irish pub, over to this new business, because it included an outside entertainment for COVID, and that really cannot go. And I think we have to be on top of this. We're trying to establish an historic district here. I appreciate what these people are doing, coming in and rehabbing this historic place. But I think we have to keep a very close watch on what goes on. And I appreciate your attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one clarification, and I was going to clarify it anyway. In their application, they do talk about outside. We're not voting on outside tonight. And the COVID package, that's not exclusive. That's voted by the board on each individual. They're not getting that tonight. Regardless,
We understand that.
regardless of what's in the application, we're voting on inside only. And I think you both understand that.
To help the neighbors that are concerned.
Step right up to the microphone.
We actually went through a painstaking process, knowing we had some issues with a 200-plus-year-old building, and I spent tens of thousands of dollars doing insulation of the structure from the roof down, and we feel, as best we can, that we're going to control the sound. And, you know, Tom is mentioning here, just let everyone know we're not going to be the Irish pub.
We're
We're not going to be the Irish pub. We're doing something much grander and wonderful and better, and want to be a big part of the community and talk a little bit about establishing, you know, the historic area and such.
Right.
We cleaned up the bridge on our side.
We appreciate it. Now I'm going to let Sally talk.
I could go on forever.
I know. Thank you, and I appreciate it, but let's get through this part.
Good evening, everybody. Sally Urbana, West Harwich. Long time. Been here.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Considering the application, I was confused about the timing of the entertainment, so I'm assuming you guys will discuss that. And thank you for taking out the entertainment and the noise licenses within the town. It is really important, thank you. I think in this case, there are 4 entities that we'll need to consider that will be affected by this. It's the business, of course. It's the residents in the area. It's also the town who's experienced recently some difficulties without having clear guidelines. But I think also we are a fledgling DCPC area, and I think some consideration might go into that as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Lou, do you want to follow up now? All right. Anyone else? Turn it over to the board, and I'll start with Mary.
I'm reluctant to go any further this is the second time I think you've been before the board, or maybe third, and each time, there's no sign-off from the fire department, and there's no sign-off from the building department. I'd like to see you open and maybe serve a burger before we add licenses. So I'm not too crazy about the plan.
Could I address your concerns?
No.
Oh,
Shortly, though.
all right.
Don, we may as well get them all on the table, and then
Okay.
I'll let you guys.
Thank you,
ramble
Mr.
away.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To elaborate on what Mary said, I'm trying to be really consistent with my thought process on this, but I feel like there's no there. We've already given a transfer of a license, and I objected to that because the occupant had the license, not the shell of the building. So buying the building didn't get you the license to convey. It should have been turned in and allocated. We've given a common vittler's license for a place that doesn't have a kitchen. And now we're going to entertain an entertainment license for a place that isn't a place because it hasn't been inspected by the relevant organizations that are involved. It's not relevant to me what a captain did 100 years ago any more than it is what the Irish pub did a year or two ago. It's about this business in this place and what it actually is going to be, which we haven't gotten to yet. It's much like, in my mind, building a garage, buying insurance, and getting a year's worth of gasoline before you actually get a car. We've given all kinds of approvals on the presumption of something that we haven't seen yet. So I would love to see it get completed, inspected, and then come in front of us with a real tangible operation that we can grant a license to.
Larry?
I'm on board with that. I would like to move ahead, actually. I think it's a good plan. I like having it only indoor. We get rid of the outdoor. But you're asking us a lot to give a license before you have an establishment, basically. Be nice to have that coming forward. I'd also like to see, in regard to some of these statements, your feedback on how you will control crowds leaving the building, 'cause that has been a concern in the past.
No, I
You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. We're going to get back to that question, and I'll finish my thoughts, and then I'll turn it over to you to answer everything
Sure.
That's been asked, and I wrote it down in case you forgot anything.
Thank you. Trying to keep track.
I find myself completely disagreeing with my board, which, excellent. This is the first time this year, I think. But this business has been a business in, forget about the name change, in West Harwich for 100 years. We have new ownership that have purchased, and they're dumping money into that building that desperately needed money dumped into that building. We have taken a pro-business stance for years. But now we're telling a new applicant, and really what's on the table tonight is entertainment. And regardless of whether or not they have their final sign-offs, they can't open until they do. So why hold them up anymore on an entertainment license that we're either gonna give them or not give them, so that they can plan their business, because now we're at July 12th, and they do wanna book weddings, and they do wanna succeed, and I think as a town, we should want them to succeed. So whether we condition the license or not, if it's the board's intention not to grant them an entertainment license, I believe that that's an argument. But if the board thinks in the back of their minds they're gonna grant them an entertainment license, what's the difference on whether or not they're open or not? They're not proposing to change or have to change, and we haven't told them they have to change the inside of the building. And again, in the end, we're giving them time to plan. And any business needs time to plan. We're basically gonna make them wait another round of meetings or call a special meeting for us to ignore our summer schedule and take a week off from noise and anything else, to come back and have to do this again. So if it's the intention of the board to grant a license, it seems to me that we'd be being punitive not to give them the license. This is regardless of whether or not they have a kitchen permit or a valid septic, or we're either gonna give them a license or we're not. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you. I'm going to address.
Crowd noise first,
Oh,
please. How are you
Crowd
going
noise,
to?
okay.
That was the
Okay,
big.
I like that.
How are
Okay.
you gonna
Thank you.
deal with people leaving your establishment at 1 a.m. so they don't wake Lou up?
so, that's true. No. So in general, in grasping what is, we had another selectman mention, I don't care what's happened there for the past. Well, we do. And we've established what we're not going to be doing at that location. And we're professionals in what we do. Tom, good, bad, or indifferent, Irish, in proper Bostonian, got set up into a horrible situation, very similar to what's happening here in Harwichport, and was brought in to quell the concerns and tamp down the former operation of the improper Bostonian and turned it into what was a success until COVID, where he had no violations, no crowd issues, anything that wasn't a partner in a downtown business district with the town, the police force, and the boards, and was able to turn that around. We will put together and manage any issues with crowd control, unruly patrons. Hopefully we don't have any that are under 65, but if someone happens to go out and enjoy, something locally and walks home and such, and we will provide the town and the patrons and the neighborhood the respect it deserves, and we will make sure we have no issues with crowd control. The late night puffer bellies when I was a kid. I would sit in the back of the station wagon. We'd pick my sister up. It was anarchy. We're not going to be doing that at the summer house, and we'll make sure of that. And we'll put a plan together. We'll work with the police hand in hand. I know the town's against police details and such, but if the police details, when there's a big concert or the Melody Tent, we're here to become a respectful neighbor for the next 25 years at least. And we're just asking for that opportunity, to give us a chance and follow all the rules. I mean, if we don't follow the rules or we have an infraction, we'll be in here in the principal's office and we'll have to deal with that and go from there. So I hope that addresses the best is yet to come of how we're going to, manage the facility and the, the witching hour, as they would call. Number 2, what's up? Because I want to follow your lead.
That's really it. I mean, I think the board's concern, Mary and Don's concern, and Larry shared the concern, was the fact that you have nothing open yet. I don't know if you want to touch on that. I think
Yes,
you did at the beginning of the meeting, and we could hash this out for days.
So I think I could address that. You guys are all here. I think it's elected officials here in the town of Selectmen and such. There are many different boards here in the town of Harwich and the municipalities I work in throughout New England. And as a developer, we really go into unsavory situations looking to improve a forgotten property or a forgotten town. I'm involved in a $550 million revitalization of the Swansea Mall, and we couldn't get up and get out of bed and talk about developing that property without planning and zoning and without having the support from the town manager and the townspeople and the votes and the quorum to do what we did there. Basically defeat Walmart with a very heavily ECR restriction. We could have never broke ground on it. We're halfway through a $200 million spend. We're putting up 380 apartments. We're putting a small ready-med hospital. We have a church in there for 120,000 square feet.
You're doing a great job there, but I want to come.
Yeah, no, I'm bringing it back home. Bringing it back home. It's all about planning and zoning and getting the support from the proper boards and municipality approvals so we can then make the step forward. The entertainment license is key to the long-term plan of being the Summer House Inn and Cafe and offering a place for the locals, and I used Witchmere earlier again, as an affordable place for a townsperson or the local people within the town of Harwich to afford a wedding that it's not going to cost $5,000 or $150,000. Also, entertainment, galleries, or any type of thing that takes planning. If the economic developer here, she'll tell you they plan events here at Harwich probably 2 years in advance. But they don't have the band book. But they need the support of the town. They need the rights to move forward and make the investment. Unfortunately, a little foolish on my part, I made a substantial investment already. And not having that entertainment license kept here safe at the town until such time I appease everyone else in the four walls of this building, that we can then open will be detrimental and catastrophic, and it goes against what the town does, what the boards do. I'm here asking for what you granted earlier, and what you'll grant at the P&Z is the permission to, so I can get ready to show the town what I'm gonna do, and it would be extremely punitive and detrimental, and we need this tonight, so we can then plan the future, which is not the Irish pub.
Thank you. Did he get everything?
No.
Go ahead, Mary.
The question was not about the Swansea Mall, that's a lovely story, but, and you're talking about wanting board support. You've had board support here twice, the victualler's license and the liquor license. What I want to know is we keep talking about the fire department and the building department. There's still been no call, my understanding, is to get the building inspected, and fire went out to inspect and you weren't ready. When are you going to be ready in terms of like a date or an approximate date?
So we believe that we'll be ready with phase one in the inn within the next 3 weeks. And you mentioned earlier that we had come in and we've got the common vehicular's license, and we got the innkeepers, and we got the liquor license. We had been in constant communication with the board in this position, and we're very well aware of what's been going on with the other, some would say crazies in this entertainment issue. And we were advised by the town, different people within the town, to not ask for the entertainment at the liquor hearing, which everyone else has in the history, as far as we researched, has always got it at the same time. So we took the advice and we shepherded the investment in with the hopes that the town would do what the town does and take it on a vote to give us the last step. If we don't get
More
it,
specifically, though, Mary's asking,
Yes.
when is your building gonna be done and when are the inspections gonna
I
be
think
done?
we'll be calling for inspections for the phase one, which we propose within a week and a half to two. We had the electrical inspector down today. He's coming back for our electrical inspection. We hope Wednesday or Thursday of this week. He was on vacation. We called profusely. No one was able to tell us where he was. He's part-time. He's a very nice gentleman, came through today. We have a building permit. We have 3 of them, and it says that we will call when we're ready for final. And at that point, we did have, these were all precautionaries, bring them in early. We had the fire department come down. Tom met with them. We have all of our certificates, all of our life safety, our sprinklers upgraded, our panel system, the call center, and we were just waiting for the final, basically, the day we opened, kind of that morning, we call, or a few days for, friends and family, we would call the town and do the last step of the process. Holding it from us, I don't even know where it fits into reality of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to reopen an establishment and move forward with our own future and path, and you guys considering holding it from us because we haven't got the signatures from this department, that part. We're not in front of the building commissioner. We're not in front of Life and Fire. We're here to you, the Selectmen, to ask you guys to do an entertainment request to re-up a license that's been there for 50 years. And we will deal with the building inspector. We'll deal with the fire inspector.
Before I get on to Mary, though, you do realize you can't open until you.
Oh,
have
absolutely.
100%. So a lot of what you're saying about us holding back is irrelevant because you don't have anything.
No, that's
for us to
true,
hold
but
anything
it's to not grant it like you did a great job earlier speaking. With what it took me 20 minutes, you did in about 5 minutes.
I just don't see the point in holding it,
Yes,
but that's
and
my
it's
own-
very important to us.
Mary, do you want to finish?
Yeah, just because you talk a lot and you go in grand circles, and I'm kind of a straight down the road type thinker. First, when you were asked the question about when you were going to open, you talked about the Swansea Mall and you were all over the place. The second time that I asked it, you said 3 weeks. My chairman here obviously didn't hear that. When he asked, you said 1.5 weeks. I'm not sure what is going on, which is why I just am reluctant to go any further.
Well, I touched upon, I'm sorry, I'm a little wordy. I do apologize. I touched upon that we had called for the inspection for electrical for quite some time, ad nauseum. And we just found out he was on vacation. If you might indulge me, we've been difficult since probably early February to get the building permit. that the town took 48 days to give us. And we've been on this hurry up, wait, let's find out what's really going on with Ember and the port type of game that's been going on. And we're just trying to reopen and establish the Captain's Chase House. And I'm sorry it has been there for 200 years. And we'd like to be there for another 100 years as not the Irish pub. As far as honing in when we're going to open, I am at the mercy of the town. And when when we put a call in, we could ask you guys to put a good word in for us. Let's get them down there right away. Let's get our inspections. Let's get some advice, some guidance from the departments which they've had. The fire department came out, gave us a nice suggestion. We'd like to see this. We did that. Then we had the electrical inspector out. We had the common vic, the Board of Health. We work with everybody in a process that takes a lot of other people 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, just to transfer a seasonal license. It happens all the time. We're stuck in 6 months with this town. And we're doing the right thing. We're going to continue the right thing. And if you're going to deny the license, on what basis, you need to be crystal clear on the record why it is. Or if it's going in the wrong way, we will withdraw and we'll see in a few weeks. And we could come back. But I think it's very unfortunate if we take a vote tonight and it becomes a denial for the entertainment license, and we're very, very unclear of how we're boxed into the town and all the other departments that may or may not have anything to do with whether or not you guys issue an entertainment license tonight.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a really straightforward, innocent question. Several times you've alluded to a Phase 1 opening. What the heck is that?
I could elaborate on that. Unfortunately, it's going to take.
Well, how about just a simple answer? Because
So
you've got a building that you
were
gutted and
advised-
you're trying to rebuild. What is a Phase 1 reopening?
We were advised during the time that we were coming forth with the liquor license by a lot of people here at the town and a lot of moving parts of people coming in and out of this commission or other commissions, that if we went and did what everyone else did and got the liquor license, which we got approved, and the entertainment license, because of the topic and the energy negativity around entertainment, we would lose the liquor license because there was an entertainment license attached to it. You can't have one without the other in the way that we set our plan out and what we took over there. So we took the suggestion of the town, and I can't quite remember who, you're new, there was an older guard.
I am new. But I told you not to put your entertainment license application in 2 weeks ago and to see where you were at this week. And I
Yes.
left it on with the assurance from you that you were getting close. That's what you recollect?
Yes, and we were close. And we actually were in this vacation roundabout with the electrical inspector, because that's really the only big thing that we need. And then we call the building in, and we just close up the ceiling. It's quite simple.
And then you'll be ready to open the restaurant and have
Yes.
entertainment inside of it.
Yes.
I think that's the answer to your question.
Okay, but the only comment I have to make is, if you were to withdraw the request and we don't go on the record, personally, I think that would be a better move, because the difference is that everybody else you're alluding to had a real building with a certificate of occupancy to actually open up and operate. You don't. You gutted it. And you have to be able to have a certificate of occupancy to be able to do any of this stuff.
So what's the worry you can't approve it tonight?
I'll go back to my "there's no there yet" comment.
So it's what's being left unsaid, in my opinion. Planning and zoning, anticipation, investment, improving the Captain's Road District is what we're about. And an entertainment license, like a liquor license, like the common vehicular license, and everything else, including the innkeeper's license that's been around for 111 years. Every component is part of the bigger plan. You mentioned building a garage, where you needed to have a garage built, you needed doors, and you needed gasoline. All those things need to happen at the same time. I think maybe you're making reference to a gas station or a car with the gas.
To a car
in it.
I don't own.
That's correct. So you put me in a precarious situation, because I want to get you guys on the record with an approval for my entertainment license at the Summer House Cafe, and I think I'm entitled to it. If I withdraw it, and I don't get what's happened here tonight as an official statement from you, could be putting the future of the Captain Chase House in jeopardy, because we do need, and we were very clear, we need entertainment to survive. That is an outlier. It has struggled for years, and you have dealt with a business trying to pay the bills and pay themselves time to be down there running basically an animal house. And I'm over here, massive investment already, way above my skis. I fell off the mountain, or I fell out of the boat.
I'm going to stop you right there. All right, so I'm going to take control of this.
Thank you.
It's nobody on this board yet has said they don't want to give you an entertainment license. So you thinking you're entitled to leave here with it is way off a base. You'd like to leave here with it, and I would like you to leave here with it.
Thank you.
But you're not entitled to it. The board's concerns is that we continue to approve and approve and approve, and you're not open yet. My own opinion is, give him his entertainment license if we're gonna give it to him, so you have it. But that, I'm not the whole board. So we can poll the board and see where the votes are.
That would be great.
And then if you don't have the votes, we withdraw the motion, and then we come back in 2 weeks, and hopefully you're done. And that would be the way that I would go with this.
That's a great idea.
But to think that you're not gonna get the entertainment license, that's not what I've heard yet tonight, and I don't want that message to be out there.
Thank you.
And in closing, the town of Harwich, and we will vote later, has a new punishment schedule, for lack of better words. And just to assure the residents of West Harwich, we are taking this very seriously. Because of everything that's happened over the past few years and how we've let things go, and we have pushed for our businesses. Now we're in a situation where it's a zero tolerance. So you need to take Lou's comments seriously as to when your business dumps out, because these are the residents that are gonna call the police, and they're gonna hear it 150 feet away, and you're gonna get violations, and you're gonna be before jail. And then that schedule that we're gonna vote tonight is very real. I will leave it at that, and I will do a straw poll. If you have to vote for this tonight, are you in favor of voting for it, yes or no? And I would start with Larry.
Let me just ask one comment, if I may. So the urgency tonight is that you feel you need to advertise for some date in the future that you can open with entertainment.
Well, it's just part of building the garage.
And they don't just-
Gasoline, it's very important to the longevity of the events that we plan on hosting.
You want
here.
to put this out that you're open at some date in the future.
Correct.
So the importance for you, just
I
so we're all clear,
I don't need
is for
to,
planning purposes.
that's what I'm getting at.
Go ahead.
You want to be able to build your business to say that you're going to open, say, the 1st of August, and it's going to be full board. You can't do that unless we approve it. That's
Correct.
yes or no?
Yes.
That's what I was looking for.
But it's not full bore, it's not dumping crowds out into the
All
streets.
set.
It's
Thank you.
just trying to do some excitement.
Mary
I'm going to be a no.
and Don?
I'm making two statements with two words, not tonight.
Okay, and now I'm gonna call on Joe real quick.
I was a yes, Michael, by
I
the
know
way.
you,
on it.
yep.
Just a question for the benefit of the board. Have you received your liquor license from the ABCC?
Our liquor license is at the ABCC, and we anticipate it any day. They asked us for 2 or 3 more documents, which we provided them earlier today.
Mr. Chairman, the reason for my question is I believe I heard earlier the statement that they have their liquor license. What they had was the approval of this board. But as you talk about things that were messed up or things that get held up, the liquor license in question was held up because they had to provide additional paperwork to the ABCC that was not included. So
No, that's not,
the pledge of the license.
no, so what, could you tell me what you know about the ABCC?
Irrelevant, stopping it, doesn't matter. So,
One is they
Mary,
don't have a license on hand as you speak.
right. And to me, liquor license and the entertainment, we're here for entertainment. So, Mary, would you withdraw your motion?
Yeah.
You would,
Wait,
and
hold
would
on.
you withdraw your
Motion.
second?
I will.
Okay, there's no motion, no second on the table. We'll work together to get you back in a couple weeks and see where you are. You're not being denied. We're taking it off
Okay.
the table.
I'd like, we're on the record.
Go ahead.
I need to know the poll, some background
No,
about.
no, you don't. Two, we're withdrawing the motion, conversation over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody.
You too. Next,
Yeah, we're at aye. I move that we vote to approve a renewal of a 2021 weekday and Sunday entertainment for trampolines at the Trampoline Center, 296 Route 28, weekdays 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
Pending building department approval.
Still second, Don?
Aye, still
Okay,
second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye. 4-0, Joe?
Thank you.
I move that we vote to approve a new 2021 common viculars license, Seagulls LLC, DBA Seagulls Ice Cream and Soda Fountain, 537 Route 28, Unit 1C, pending building department approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
Nope.
I guess the only discussion I would have is, Joe, could you please follow up? There's 2 in a row on pending building department approval.
Will do.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0.
I move that we vote to approve a one-day entertainment license for 2 private events to be held on August 21st, 2021, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and August 28th, 2021, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., live music with amplification outside 44 Chatham Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Cindy, is your discussion the past item? We'll come back to you. Go ahead, Mary. Discussion?
Discussion is that that cannot be 11 p.m. due to our noise bylaw. That's got to be 10 p.m.
Well, the noise bylaw, Joe, if I'm correct, the noise that Mary's speaking of is entertainment licenses, not related to private events. And my comment, Mary, was I think 10 o'clock is a lot more appropriate because of what we have the businesses do, but
So, thank you for that question. Staff will tell you that, and that's not a third-person reference, I mean, everybody else in the office will tell you, that they took a number of calls last week from a number of private residences looking to obtain entertainment licenses so that they could have private events that went beyond the boundaries of the noise bylaw. And so what we're confronted with now is private residences that are looking to do entertainment, as you would for a licensed establishment or other business, and to expand upon the hours. What we have advised folks is that they can certainly apply, but the board may, in fact, look at it as you do with other outside entertainment licenses and do it to an earlier time.
thank you, Joe. Larry?
Is that the motion then?
Well, the motion is 11, but my discussion was, shouldn't it be 10, where we've got a
You made the motion, you
noise
can change
bylaw?
whatever time
You can change.
Oh, I didn't know I could do that.
Maybe you
in the
can
middle of the
withdraw your
motion.
motion if the second's withdrawn.
I'll change the motion then, to have
so
both.
just-
I withdraw my
amended.
second, first of all.
Okay, you withdraw the second, withdraw the
Okay.
motion?
I withdraw the motion.
Okay, now you're making a
Now
new
do it
motion.
again.
Thank you.
I move that we approve a one-day entertainment license for 2 private events to be held on August 21st, 2021, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and August 28th, 2021, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., live music with amplification outside 44 Chatham Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
None.
Any discussion from the public on this one? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0, Joe. Cindy?
I just wanted to thank you all and for approving the Seagulls ice cream. They've gone through a lot, but I also want to invite everyone, now that it's been approved, to Saturday at 11 a.m. for ribbon cutting the Harwich Chamber will be doing outside of Seagulls ice cream.
And ice cream social.
Thank you, Cindy. Sorry I skipped you.
Okay, I move that we vote to approve a one-day entertainment license for a private fundraising event to be held on July 17th, 2021, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., live music with amplification outside, 16 Route 28, Town Line Plaza, pending fire department approval.
Second for discussion, seeing a hand.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion, Joe?
Just for the record, the fire department approved that today.
Any discussion, Mary?
I just wondered, a fundraising event, maybe it's none of our business, but should we know what they're raising money for so that we know it's something legal and proper?
Well, I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't, that staff's gonna make sure it's legal, but it would be a good idea to know what
I
it is.
didn't see anything in there that said
We
what
can
it
certainly
was.
follow up and find out additional information. I can tell you as a former town clerk, if they're looking to do fundraising, they may be contemplating a raffle, and that requires a permit. So we will follow up with that establishment.
Can we approve it pending Joe's review?
Sure can. I'm gonna call on Mr. Waystack, because we might have the answer right here.
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not. Richard Waystack. Just a quick question. With more and more of these private entertainment licenses coming forward, I'm hoping staff will remind them of the noise bylaw, so it does not give people carte blanche to just blast music till 10 p.m. at night, but they are held to the same standards that many of these businesses are held to.
Thank you, Richard. Noted, Joe?
Yes, thank you.
I'd be willing to modify the second to address her concern.
Okay,
Okay.
yep. So we're doing it pending,
Pending Joe's review, the type of event the money's being raised for.
okay, moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we vote to hold a public hearing for the alleged violations on June 26, 2021 at Seal Pub, 730 Main Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All, Joe?
Mr. Chairman, just to indicate that the date that would be contemplated for that hearing is July 27th. There was a previous matter that the board had remanded to me as a hearing officer that is still pending, so we'll have all the interested parties there. So if the board goes for this, it'll be added that same day. And the establishment is aware of that potential.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that we vote to authorize the town administrator to be the hearing officer for the public hearing for the alleged violations on June 26, 2021 at Seal Pub, 730 Main Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Joe, is this the same date then?
Correct.
None.
All set? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
I move that we vote to amend Section 1-117 disciplinary guidelines of the Harwich Board of Selectmen liquor license regulations to include a language change from third offense to third and subsequent offenses.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. As you recall, at your meeting, at your last meeting, you had the discussion about noise, and I had indicated, as I write in my memorandum to you tonight, about the regulations and expanding it. However, I do believe a public hearing has to be held. So this matter was brought before you to let you know that we can update it, but I do think it's appropriate, based on the last time you did it, was actually through public hearing. So we would be looking to have that public hearing for the general public to meet all publishing requirements, to be your first meeting in August.
Great.
So at this point, it would just be for the board to contemplate the public hearing.
So the motion should be withdrawn.
Correct.
Mary, do you withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
John,
I
you
withdraw
withdraw
my
your
second.
second? Okay. And Joe, you'll schedule the public hearing?
Yes, yep,
And we can do that sooner rather than later?
yep.
Thank you.
I'll move on.
Well, she asked me to do that, but I'm.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
I'm thinking it's out of sequence. Can we first hear what the rationale is for this and then make the motion?
Ken, I would assume, Joe, we'd want to, based on earlier tonight, not having that portion of the meeting, bring this back to our next meeting.
Yes.
Yep, so we're not gonna read that motion. Don, this is a discussion, we're gonna go back into executive session tonight,
That's
when this meeting's over.
for P?
For personnel bylaw to delete reference?
Item P. Yep.
Okay, so there's no motion.
No motion.
Thank you.
Next up is old business, discussion on comprehensive wastewater management plan. Joe, any updates?
No, other than, Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding that this was meant to be a discussion amongst you and your board members. That's why we don't have staff engaged in this particular topic tonight.
Perfect. So Larry, per your request, we talked about this, and the last meeting, we talked about DHY and whether or not there's future meetings and whether or not we're involved. There was an email chain I saw that went around. So I think I'll turn it over to you, but the idea was to have a general discussion on where the board's going. So that maybe we can kill some of the rumors of what we're not doing, and that everything's still on the table.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm trying to remember the email link chain that you talked about. My concern was that what was reported, and I think, Joe, you tried to clarify it, but it wasn't, I think the other towns maybe not have understood it, but we didn't have there is no such thing right now as a DHY agreement. There's a draft agreement that was under discussion. And somehow that got reported as we were withdrawing from the DHY agreement, which is not part of the discussion. Discussion is, do we want to continue our involvement with the DHY committee that we started some years ago? And that was my stance, that we still should be exploring that. Now, there's been some discussion of other options, but let's not give up on a regional approach to wastewater, because that has a lot of positive attributes. You know, regional approaches will, you know, state the obvious. Groundwater doesn't stick to town lines, nor does wastewater issues. And by working together, we can all save money. We could take advantage of having one plant. And in our time of fiscal responsibility, that seems critical to me. I also would think that I think one misconception, and I'll speak maybe to Don and you, Michael, of lack of control of having a regional, which is a concern. It's one we've had from the beginning. I would point out that there's so many regulatory requirements, if you will, on operation of a wastewater plant, that if we run it by ourselves or with the region, we still have very little latitude in what we can do. And so I think maybe that concern may be overstated. I think, Mr. Chairman, that my point now is, however, very simple. I think it's a mistake to stop discussion. And I think it's a mistake that if we stop discussion from a board level. I realize that Joel is which he's done in the past. He's had discussions with the other town managers in the past at our behest and with our blessing, and those will continue. But I think we should also be involved. This is an important step. It's not going to go away. We know CLF is after us. They've sued Barnstable recently. That we're going to, at some stage, we're going to have to meet that 208, not to get too far away from this, but our obligation to clean up our water stream going into the harbors. And so that was my single point tonight is, and has been the last couple of weeks, is we need to continue those discussions, in my opinion.
Thank you, Larry. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't disagree with Larry fundamentally, but the question that's never been answered, and I would love to, through the chair, ask for this to be provided. In all of our discussions, all of the comparisons were go it alone versus doing it as a regional compact with a commission and DHY. The fact that this opened up a second discussion, which is there might still be a plant in Dennis. We might still want to be able to send wastewater to them and get it processed, but under a different governance scenario. I'd like to see a dollars and cents evaluation of what is it going to cost as a difference, because 75% of the cost is ours anyway for the pipes and the roadway. I would love to know, what are we talking about? How much control are we ceding and how much money are we saving by going into DHY versus the same exact plant in the same location and we buy a capacity? What would that cost us and what's the savings over? Because I've been hearing some of our negotiating partners speak through the press rather than through us, that we're giving up massive savings. I think it was like $140 million or something I read at one point, which is absurd. I'm not interested in knowing what it costs us to build our own plant versus what it costs for us to throw in with them. I'd like to know, is there a substantive difference ultimately between, and this is something Dan could work on, is there a substantive difference between building the same plant in the same place and putting the same pipes in the road, but one of them has us buying capacity and the other one has us owning a portion of the plant? And that's, to my knowledge, that's never been a scenario that anybody's given us a number on.
Mary?
I agree with Larry that this got debated in the press where it really didn't belong, but like Larry stated, I think we should still be looking at regional as an option. I was under the impression that Yarmouth is under some type of time crunch I don't know if it was you, Joe, or someone indicated that to me. So the real drive was they needed everybody to commit by that meeting a couple of weeks ago, or they had to do something different. But I think we should be exploring all of our options and not walking away from any discussion. But Joe tells me there's no next meeting for that group. So I don't know what that means.
Well, I think we'll leave it back to Joe to get in touch with his counterparts and see where we're at. But the town of I think the message is quite simple. The town of Harwich hasn't walked away from anything, and I think Joe spelled it out exactly that last week. I think or 2 weeks ago, he clarified it, and the town of Harwich isn't going anywhere yet. We have contracted someone to give us actual numbers and actual flow rates. So we pulled out of town meeting vote on this because we weren't there yet. And that was a vote of the board. And if the other towns need to move quicker because they're not where we are, then that's their problem. I mean, in the end, town of Harwich is $30 million invested. We're probably in the top 3 towns on Cape Cod. So we're doing great, and I do agree, Larry, keep all conversations open.
Yeah.
By no
So-
means has anyone said that we're gonna walk away from this yet.
So I think my final comment would be, let's be proactive and get the other DHY meeting back in order so we can have this discussion.
And I'd like to continue. I mean, Larry was pointing out that you have a committee.
I've made no recommendations for change, so. Mark, if you want.
Mark Kelleher, I had a conversation with Mark Forrest. I know him from my days when I was friendly with Bill Delahunt. Excuse me. He said that Yarmouth is moving on. He thinks it's done with. So I like what you're saying, Larry, and if the board thinks there's going to be a DHY, you really need to jump on it because he thinks they're gone. And my contention is, and this is a little bit beyond the discussion here, Mark Forrest through Bill Delahunt, who roomed with Schumer, when 3 towns share the cost of a sewage treatment plant, it's a lot less than 2 towns. Plus, with all the stimulus money coming, now is the time to do a DHY, and you're going to have to speak up quickly because, as I said, Forrest they're out of it. Now's the time to speak up and get that stimulus money that's going to be out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may comment, and I want to do this respectfully, so take it respectful as I want it to be. My belief at the moment is that Mark Forrest is using this as a way to try to pressure us to move quicker than we're willing to do. I don't quite buy that are unwilling to work with us at the moment. I go back to my original statement, we should be proactive and try to get the committee functioning again. But I'm not taking that quite at face value at the moment.
Thank you, Larry.
And they have made no vote themselves to back up that particular statement.
Right. Well, again, another town's emergency is not ours, so let's just continue on the path that we're on. All right, moving on to contracts.
I move that we vote to approve a contract with Mettler Toledo LLC for the replacement of the scale deck at the transfer station in the amount of $69,188.24.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we vote to approve a 3-year contract with PK Valuations for the fiscal years 2022, 23, and 24 reevaluation and inspection services in the amount of $132,000.
For the who to sign.
For what?
Chairman to sign.
Oh, for the
And
chairman to
authorize the chair
sign.
to sign.
And authorize the chairman to sign.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Can you just give us some background on this?
Richard?
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard Waystack, Chair of the Harwich Board of Assessors. This is our outsourced valuation program. We outsourced a lot of our work from the Board of Assessors many, many years ago. PK Valuations, they handle the majority of the valuations for Cape Cod towns. You looked up maybe the online database for information that is provided through PK Valuations. If you look at the staffing of the assessor's office, where they are today, where they were 10 years ago, it is far less. We've outsourced some of the work that was being done in-house, now being done by PK. They're the one of the most recognized valuation services, number one in the Cape and in Massachusetts. They do an outstanding job. From my perspective, as a member of the Board of Assessors, their work is so good, we continue to see a reduction in the number of abatements that are filed every year because their data is that good.
Larry?
When I first looked at this, I thought you were talking about dissociation constant for acids and bases, but I like your explanation better.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, the town expects to have a signed contract available for members to sign, or the chair, however the vote is, tomorrow. We were waiting on PK to sign.
Thank you.
He was the chair.
Chair, yeah, authorize the chair to sign, Joe, so simpler document. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye.
I move that we vote to approve a consent to collateral assignment for the rooftop photovoltaic energy facility lease at the Cranberry Valley Golf Course Cart Barn,
And Mary, could you add as presented?
as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion? Don?
No.
Mary?
No.
Larry?
No, just great to see it go forward.
The only discussion I have on this and the next one, which we'll do as presented already, our legal team has been through this and made a bunch of edits, and I sent them to you, they were red line and yellow line.
Right.
As long as Green Skies approves what we sent back, this approval will go through. If there's any modification at all, it will come back to the board.
I'd like to thank the chair for his efforts in getting those red line changes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
I move that we vote to approve a consent to collateral assignment for the ground mount photovoltaic energy facility lease at Cranberry Valley Golf Course as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, same statement I just made. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye. Town Administrator's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, just updating the board, excuse me, that I've signed several 30B contracts that I believe you've included in your packet. You'll see one for the, for $6,900 for the Health Department, for an on-call inspector. This is related to Title V inspection reports. As we've heard from our health director, that business is booming, and to meet that demand, we acquired a contract employee for the purpose of doing that. Again, it was $6,900. In agreement with, for Pine Grove Cemetery Grave Conservation. I believe this is the one that I did get last week. The dollar amount for that one is just under $42,000. And it is to the Village Green Restoration Incorporated for East Falmouth. And that, again, is to do the gravestone conservation in Pine Grove Cemetery. I'll say that right in the next meeting. Just to advise everybody, the Community Preservation Committee is meeting on this Thursday, July 15th at 6 p.m. Here in the Griffin Room. And this is their annual effort to hear from the community about projects that are being contemplated. So any parties that are interested in that should be here Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Also in your packet was a notice that we received and that we saw a notice in the Cape Cod Times. But just to remind everybody that the USDA is beginning today and lasting for approximately 1 week, is conducting a aerial bait program, and that's related to the rabies incidents that occurred. And then last but not least, I'm very pleased to announce that the Health Department is now complete with the acceptance of an offer letter by Carrie Schoner to be our senior health agent. As you know, she will take after our director, Katie O'Neill, who took after our new assistant town administrator. That circle is complete, and I'm thrilled to say that. That
Thank
concludes
you,
my
Joe.
report.
Selectmen's report, Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, for those people who don't read the Cape Cod Chronicle, I know it's impossible to believe that there are some, but I just want to reiterate that the town is now proud owner of the former Marceline property on Route 124. It's approximately 13 acres, and be looking towards the future about how that actually plays out in terms of a development.
Not the junkyard side.
Not the junkyard side.
Thank you.
Because he owned an extraordinary amount of property, but this is the property that's bounded by Queen Anne Road and 124 across the street from the bus station.
Cow pasture. And
I was trying to avoid saying that.
And Don, thank you, and thank the town administrator and the trust. You did an awful lot of work on this, and we appreciate it.
By name, because there wasn't enough room in the newspaper for everything, but I named names. The town administrator, his staff, Carol Capola. We had extraordinary support in this building, and everybody did everything they possibly could to meet deadlines.
Thank you. Mary?
Just that Joe and I were on a meeting, the working committee of the Monomoy School Committee this afternoon, and I believe they're going to go forward to the school committee the 15th, which I think is later this week, with a proposal that will go to the state for approval that would shift things financially for us to the tune of about $600,000.
Thank you, Mary. You'll keep us informed on that?
I will.
Great.
I will.
Larry?
Nothing.
I have no report either.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I apologize, I was not able to get here for public comment. I just wanted to make note, while both the deputy police chief and the fire chief are here, that the town was well represented in the wall raising for the Habitat for Humanity project this Saturday. And I wanted to commend both departments, along with the United States Marine Corps and the Coast Guard, who did the wall raising of 6 houses for 6 new families coming into this community. And I also wanted to recognize, if I could, the CPC committee, Mr. Nixon, the chairman, because that project was helped by a $300,000 grant from the town of Harwich. And I was there, I had an opportunity to welcome the families to Harwich. 2 of those families were educated here in Harwich. So great program. My thanks to both the fire department and the police department.
Great. Thank you, and thank you guys very much. It's a great project. No report from me other than to point out the correspondence. We're going to add this to the agendas. They may not be all detailed depending on how many there are, but Larry, one of these that's in here was related to indirect costs, I believe, for you. Yep, Sand Pond indirect costs. So questions that board members ask that we don't get answers to, they'll be in correspondence.
Okay, good, thank you.
And then I would accept a motion to
So
adjourn
moved.
with the understanding that we will be reconvening executive session.
And will not be coming back.
And will not be coming back to open session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.